Hi everyone, welcome to Blonde Vibrations. This is Tuning In and we are with ISSA ODYSSEA.
Hi.
So glad I said that right there.
Yeah, I know. Got it.
Snaps. So we will once again address, as we always do, that we have been speaking for a bit before. So just thanks for coming in.
Yeah, of course. I'm so happy to be here.
Good. So for those who might not know you yet, we thought that a good way for our listeners to get to know you would be to talk about who you've taken inspiration from as you've grown as an artist. So who do you feel that you are the creative love child of?
Oh my God, that's such a good way to phrase it. I feel like I grew up listening to so many artists, but the ones that have really just like held my hand through life, especially like the most like significant years of life, are probably Frank Ocean, definitely. Kendrick Lamar, SZA, goodness, Alicia Keys. Like I always have to give her a bit of a shout out because like when I was first kind of like starting my like journey into music and like songwriting and even like singing and stuff, I feel like her music really inspired me to want to like pick up piano and composition in like such an intentional way. Who else? This list is so long that I'm always like I'm definitely leaving
whole family.
like, I'm definitely leaving so many people out. But in general, like I always feel like my influences kind of stem from a lot of artists who are in like the alternative bracket of their genre. So like pop music, it's usually like alt pop or R&B, like alt R&B. People who are kind of doing things slightly left of center, like even right now, like Billie Eilish and Phineas. I mean, who isn't inspired by like the way that they make music together? Jessie Reyes is another artist that lately I've been listening to so much. Gotta give her a shout out. And yeah, let me stop the list because I'll probably be like here 10 minutes and I just be like, oh, these people.
A family tree of like, these are your like aunts, these are your cousins.
Yeah, fully.
Like.
That's what it is though. Like I love music so much that I always feel like first and foremost, it's like I've always just been a like listener, and from then, yeah, I mean that's just big. Like the biggest source of your inspiration as an artist, I think, is probably the music that you listen to, right? So yeah.
So do you feel like you're a love child of anyone? Obviously not like music, but you know, just like maybe fashion or just the way you are. Like sorry to put you on the spot.
Like I've always been curious.
Oh, we're breaking character.
And you should know this too.
I was really like startled. I can't wait to see my reaction. I think I was like,
you don't have to have an answer.
Well, the easiest option, the most like basic option would surely be Taylor Swift, Harry Styles.
True, yeah.
Like that is like
that makes sense.
Like,
you like paired that well.
Yeah, but also
Mum
like
and dad.
that's mum and dad, you know, and also like I don't know. That's also the most long-standing. I'm not sure necessarily. I was gonna say I'm not sure necessarily if like personality, like fashion-wise, but I do think in weird ways maybe, yeah.
Okay.
I think, but that's so basic. I feel like everyone ever would say that.
But it's a good answer.
And it makes sense.
Like, why not?
So,
yeah, sure.
What about you?
I would
Don't
also
ask me.
actually add SZA to the list.
Yeah.
And you know what? And I know that she's been everywhere right now. See, the list continues. But don't she? Like, how incredible!
that.
She's so good.
Yeah.
Anyway, carry on.
Yeah, for sure. Like, you're studying
Just had to.
Yeah, don't ask me because like I'm gonna have to say because outfit wise, Renee probably.
Oh, yeah.
Renee
Killer
and
choice.
Adam Sandler.
Well,
You know
yeah, I guess
what? Those two.
Yeah.
that's my mum and dad.
Yeah.
And then Billy probably.
Really?
Yeah. Why not?
You guys are siblings.
Yeah, that makes sense. Top of mind, actually, yeah, probably Adam Sandler. For the fashion inspo, yeah, definitely.
This took such a weird turn straight away.
I know.
Like I'm great, guys. I wasn't expecting to be able to tag like Adam Sandler on the credits of this. So you kind of like, I guess, would we be correct in assuming that a lot of your kind of steps into music was through influences and kind of seeing artists do things and be like, I want to be able to do that as well? Like, what kind of was your, I guess, stages into pursuing music as a career, but I guess also as a hobby?
Yeah, I mean, so I didn't like grow up in like an excessively like musical family, except for the fact that like my family's just always loved listening to music. So it was more kind of like the collection of like records and like that always being like music in the house more than like having any like direct musicians related to me or like in my circle to take any kind of inspiration from. So I think like that exposure to art in general also, like there would always be like MTV on in my house. Like we'd always just be watching music videos, and even like so much of my exposure to musicians has been through like my brothers putting me on different artists and like collecting certain CDs. So yeah, it's definitely like a lot of the creativity has definitely come from seeing other artists do their thing, but mostly also I think as a means for me to just reflect on life and like have somewhere to go. You know, like I kind of grew up journaling and like writing, so like a lot of the music making really comes from like songwriting, which didn't always start like as songwriting, but kind of from like the more poetic side of things, just like writing poetry, writing in general, and from there kind of finding a space in which like the both of them pair up to make music ultimately, I think. Yeah.
The MTV stuff really makes sense with how like visual
Yeah.
you are with your stuff now. That
I
makes
mean,
sense.
I love that part of it. You know, like I think as an independent artist, like your resources are always like the limiting factor. But definitely like something that I want to kind of pursue more is like kind of bringing those visual ideas that I have to life with like the more projects that I do in the future. Yeah.
Who were the first people that you saw in concert?
Oh, this is going to be crazy actually, because I'm trying to think like what's the first concert I think I ever went to, and maybe I'm wrong, but the one that I vividly remember, like I remember coming to London with my mum, going to the O2 to see Nicki Minaj.
As your first one?
That's
that's really respectful.
That's so
Fair enough.
Like I can't remember, maybe there's been another like before then, but like it was like a smaller like more festival vibe, which I can't like clock who would it be, but like as a concert, like their own concert, I remember it being, I'm pretty sure, Nicki Minaj, which was kind of a mad experience because like Nicki Minaj, right? Like
at the
huge
huge
fest.
That's crazy.
like crazy. I think like there's probably been like different smaller, like more chilled places that like I've seen live music.
Yeah.
But in terms of me being like, oh my god, like I really want to see this artist like live, I think that was the first one that I vividly remember like going to see. Since then, there's been many. I would say.
Like she wasn't the first one.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. Can you imagine?
No. So you've been making TikToks about not caring what people have to say, and you know, bullies being comfortable watching and judging from a crowd. Could you tell us a bit about how you got to the point of confidently posting and taking promotion into your own hands?
Still working on it. Honestly, like let's be real. God, you know what? I think it's probably gotten easier in this last maybe like a year or so. At the beginning of last year, I really kind of told myself that like that's it, like just do it. Like it's not as scary as you think it's going to be. Which at the time I was like, yeah, no, that's a lie. It's definitely just as scary as you feel like it is. But I think like it's almost habitual. I think the more you do it, the more it just doesn't feel as deep. Which for like an overthinker is like a hard concept to really wrap your head around, something not being that serious and it just being like, hey, like just do it. It's fun. Like it doesn't mean the world. I think that was probably like the hardest thing to get out of my head of it. You're just posting on social media and ultimately like you're doing it for you. Like not as many people care, and this is like in a good way, about the kind of details of what you're doing as you do. So like the standards you hold yourself to, or like the inner critic is the worst voice. Then like, you know, no one else cares as much. So I think like just kind of stepping away from that, like getting into the habit of doing it more often. And then also just kind of reminding yourself like, fuck what people think. Like life is ultimately like too short.
Yeah, I think we've had to like kind of get over the idea of being perceived.
Yeah.
Because when we first started, we were telling you earlier about like the radio show, people afterward just be like, we listened, you know, and we'd just be a bit like, why? Like, what do you mean? You've seen it.
And we used to think that just because someone listened would mean that they were kind of poking fun at it. And you kind of assume that if anyone's paying attention to what you're doing, it's almost negatively.
Like a bad thing. Yeah.
And then very quickly we were like, oh no, they're listening to it because they think it's cool.
Yeah, and they actually can, say things back that we've been saying, like they've been listening and taking it in. It wasn't just like, let's put it on.
Well, it's this like assumption that like it's automatically gonna be a scary negative experience if someone else is seeing you do the thing that you love. I think that's the equation of it. Like you love doing this thing. Anyone in your life that is of like significance should love seeing you passionate and happy. So I think you just got to do you. Like I don't know, I think I remember my singing teacher always telling me before I'd go in for exams that like because I'd get really freaked out. She would always say like the examiner is there to see what you can do, not what you can't do. And I think it's that thing of like you want to surround yourself with people who actually ultimately want to see you shine. And if they don't, fuck them. Then who cares? Like get kind of enjoyment off of just like just showcasing who you are, even if they don't support you for it.
Do you find it quite easy to separate what you do in that sense from like analytics and stats and stuff? If you feel like you're kind of like, what I'm doing is for myself, does that then help you inform like a more positive relationship to like how number hungry social media is, or do you feel like that's still like difficult?
That's such a good question.
It's really deep and like not scripted. And I'm really
but like I think
I'm impressed by that myself.
Wow, the way you phrased it too.
I had to check it wasn't written anywhere.
No, but I think that's such an important question, and also like an important thing to talk about, because obviously like so much of the music industry, not even just the music industry, but so much of like the world that's wrapped into like social media is judged by like numerical value. And like we're really kind of trained to see our worth as analytics, right? Like, and I think like separating from that in a creative space is so difficult because it comes at the cost of opportunity. There are so many, even like lately, I wanted to apply for some funding, and it was literally based on how many followers you've got, which is crazy, right? Because like funding is meant to open the doors for people who don't have the opportunity. And one of the markers of like eligibility was how many followers you have and how many streams your last 3 songs of this year had.
Oh my God.
I hate that.
And I remember seeing the opportunity on social media and it being presented in a way that would make you think that this is a really good thing. Like this is really like them trying to help independent upcoming artists.
Like built to be like
and when you go in and like the terms and conditions, it's not in any means, and like it also makes you almost want to, like I was so close to being like, oh my God, like going on social media and being like, oh my God guys, can you help me get my songs to this amount? But I was just like, it's not even realistic for me to suddenly like try and get all my listeners to increase my streams by this amount. Like it's just not going to happen. So like I knew that opportunity was out of reach for me. That kind of stuff I think gets to me more than me caring about what it looks like the perception of it doesn't feel like it really gets to me as much as it probably did. But I think the part of it that kind of excludes me from being able to like participate, that part sucks more, I would say.
I feel like we're very much the same. Like I feel really I feel that so much. I'm so glad that was your response, because I'm like literally I feel the exact same. Like I don't care about the numbers. What I care about is other people looking at the numbers and like judging us based on that, because I don't think numbers equate to how well you do. And I mean, even like we were just saying about like people being just like rude and stuff. It's like, but what you don't understand is that like what you're seeing is like a small independent platform. What I'm seeing is a really meaningful conversation that you're not going to get elsewhere.
Exactly right. Yeah.
And I think it's very like, not to like pick you up too early on in the interview, but it's a very similar thing with you where like your music is so unique and has such a distinct place that it's like whether numbers show that or don't show that, that should speak for itself. And that's what I find really frustrating about how number hungry creative industries are, because it's like I don't think you can actually put deep conversation or deep music to a number. I think that's so upsetting to my core. Like I hate it.
Yeah, because we've even had it with like applying for like festival opportunities and things like that, and straight away it's how many followers do you have, and it's like I do understand to an extent that you like you have to know like where you're at, but if that's gonna be the yes or no for us depending on what that number is that we put down, like it's just really frustrating, because at that point like do you just switch off to the rest of the information you have to show.
Well,
and,
that's the thing. It's like you always have that in the back of your mind that like, did you even listen to the music? Did you even like, did you go beyond just like looking at how many followers or how many streams I have? Like, is that the first initial kind of analysis of how worthy I am as an artist or as a business or whatever it is that you're trying to do? I think, as you said, like, is the connection not more important to you? Like, I don't know, like I think that part is kind of crazy, and like it's also something that like feels like it doesn't really have a fix, it doesn't really have a solution because of like how profit minded most businesses are and like people, but I also feel like it's something that like the more transparent you are about it, and I also feel like it's important for artists with a bigger following and like in those opportune places to actually speak about the reality of it, because I don't think a lot of people realize how like how bad it actually gets. I think I don't know, I think it's maybe it's harder when you're kind of like in the circle to like look outward, but I think it's important to try and like bring other people with you, you know. And
I think it's a really vicious cycle as well, isn't it? Like I can think of someone who has like very clearly fake followers, and it's like just because you've got that like big number, it's like that's what's getting you in those rooms, but then because you're getting into those rooms, you're then getting pushed further, and it's like, but that number and that engagement doesn't match up to what you actually have, and it's like that vicious thing. And it's a similar thing to almost the funding, where it's like, okay, so I don't have those followers that you want me or the streams that you want me, but if I had those streams, regardless of whether they were actually engaging with my music, that deems it more worthy. And I just think it's
a lot of it is hype. A lot of it is like trying to create the illusion of hype. That's not to say that all hype isn't real and valid, and that's not to say that like the attention that certain artists, creatives get isn't legitimate, because it is obviously, but I think a lot of the time, especially in terms of like press, PR, playlists, all of that whole world, if you're able to manufacture the illusion that an artist is performing really well, again, like it comes down to worth, right? Like their worth to the eyes of the music industry appears better than kind of an independent artist who doesn't have the funds or the means or the support to create that same kind of illusion.
Yeah. It's really like, there's like a ethical dilemma with it, because we could just go and buy 10k followers if we wanted to. We could do that, but it's also like, no, like let's build something real. Because like you were saying, the engagement is not gonna add up to the amount of followers that you have. Like we at least have we're real standing people in what we actually have, what is around us.
And this is what you have as well, because the people that are fans of you are such riders for you, like it's crazy. Like,
oh my goodness,
are such real ones. It's crazy.
I mean, like I think like it also comes down to that, right? Of like you're trying to build, and I've had this conversation with them a lot as well, like in terms of trying to figure out like, where did you guys come from? Like, how did you find me? Like, what was it that kind of like drew you? Like what drew you to me, and like not even what drew them to me, but what drew us together, right? Like, and I think it comes down to what I really hope to be able to do is like build a world around my music, and for it to be like a true kind of representative of me and like my art. And I don't know, like it honestly, like it's I'm so grateful for the people that listen to my music and also like support me in more ways than just listening to my music, because I think they are just such a key reminder of like, it really is about like it sounds cliche, but like about your community, and like the rest of it, as much as it is hurtful when you feel excluded from those kind of circles, I think like at the bottom of it, it's really the only thing that matters. Like it's the core of it, right? Like it's also the part that like, that's where all the feeling is, right? Like all the like kind of silly like smiles at your phone, that's where they come from, more than like getting like a playlist or getting like, a publicist emailing you, all those kind of no shade to all the publicists out there.
All the new publicists out there, I hate you.
But like all the kind of like emails from like representatives in music industries, I don't know if they'll ever really quite equate to the feeling that you get when like people who listen to your music write you like a really heartfelt message on Instagram or come to your shows. Like I think that's just one experience. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's funny that you mentioned the publicist, because my next question was going to be about being an independent artist, which you just mentioned. And where like, I think because we are also like, I always forget that like at our core we are also independent, because everything, and it's not until we kind of started speaking to more industry people, and they'd be like, so like, what's your team like? And we're like, oh, we have like editor Becky. And they're like, oh, so you do everything yourself? And we're like, oh yeah. And then like, it's only recently that we've started being like, wait, we are an independent platform. And so I think with that, I'm always really fascinated by kind of how independent artists kind of have to do all the other jobs, because we have to do all the other jobs as well.
Wear all the hats.
So I guess in that sense I just wanted to check in and like, how do you find this experience? Like, do you find it quite overwhelming, or do you find like certain parts feel rewarding?
I think it is one of those things that kind of goes both ways. I think it's really nice to have creative control. I think I've always experienced music making to be kind of like a lone wolf experience, which I know isn't always the way that it goes. I've definitely had moments where I kind of have wished to have more people around to be able to kind of like, whether it's just to like bounce ideas off of or to support you. I think like the more I'm doing like live shows and stuff like that, it kind of feels like there's something sometimes missing. You'll get like emails from promoters or people like organizers of shows, and I'll just be like, how many in your touring party? How many in your team? And I'll just be like, this is going to be very single digit, as in one. So I think that part, you're aware of how helpful it can be to have more people in your corner. And I mean to say that, shout out to all the people who are in my corner, even though it's few. I feel like they're so valuable to me. But I think also like the experience of making music, of playing shows, of doing anything creative has always felt really personal. And it's something that I think also I would struggle to give up the reins of, I think being able to, with all its downfalls, I think being able to have a platform on social media where you can share your own work is something that's still really valuable. And also like a great thing that you can do that, and you can kind of like reach out to people who hopefully resonate with you without, at least for that part, without there being like a gatekeeper, So I think it goes both days depending on what day you ask me.
I like both love the control and hate the control.
Exactly.
Like, I love having like everything at my fingertips and I constantly know what's going on until like it's all the responsibilities on us. And I'm like, oh my god, I'm like, I literally can't. And I'm like, guys, like I haven't responded to any emails in like 2 weeks and I'm really sorry. I'm like, oh, God.
I think like it definitely gets like a breaking point when like, especially like certain aspects of it, like when you're headed to a release or something, you've got like 10,000 things that you need to get done, and you do sometimes wish you could just like solely focus on like the creative part, and like you could throw all that other like kind of like business minded things to the side. But I don't know, I think there's something in it that I think if I had too many people around, I would also be like, no, let me kind of curate that, let me do that.
Are you the kind of person that then finds the more creative stuff more rewarding? Because I'll leave today and I'll be like, oh, this is why I do it. After like probably like maybe like just under a month of just doing emails and like organizing stuff and launching stuff, when I'm actually doing it, I leave and I'm like, that's why I do it.
Just sitting here with the backdrop.
It's all worth it. Are you that kind of person as well that like it almost like all of the like boring stuff almost makes the fun stuff more fun?
Definitely. I mean, I think that's why you do it. I think also it's probably like a reminder to me to celebrate those moments and like to be present, or like as present as I can be in those moments, because like I do feel like sometimes that the down can be quite low, and also like the whole distraction of the more kind of like business admin side of it kind of takes you out of that creative bubble that like is obviously like where you're happiest. So I think when I'm in it, like when I've got studio days or when I've got a show, to really enjoy them, because I know that that's really like what I'm doing it for, like, and just holding on to that feeling, like knowing that like when you're kind of like low in it and not feeling great about it, or feeling a bit disheartened or just like overwhelmed, that feeling is going to come back again, and like hopefully increasing how many days I get to do that and experience that as well. So,
I know you've touched on it a little bit already about, you know, like how fulfilling it is, and it's kind of your connection to your listeners that really make you feel like it is fulfilling. Yeah. But playing shows, and we saw that you're supporting Joe Hill, which we were so thrilled to see that re-announced.
I loved seeing that. Like I felt like I was just announced how excited I was for you.
Yeah,
so
that was mad. Yeah.
And then also things like receiving your first fan letter in the last few months.
Yeah.
How does it feel to see listeners connecting with you, getting these opportunities, and, you know, things really resonating in a tangible way?
I mean, very surreal, because it really hasn't always been that way, and it's also just so new that I think I'm you know, like I've got a little group chat called ISSA's World. They'll know that like there are multiple times where I just write little like thank you notes for lack of a better word, because like it is really that feeling of like, what are you guys doing here? Like, oh my god, I'm so grateful that you're listening and supporting, and that it means as much to you as it means to me, because I think that's really what you're after. And I think when you do it for a long time, it's hard when you don't see that like that connection, or like where you can't really like bridge the gap. And I think because like the experience of making music is so personal, I think you start to question of like, am I doing this right? Like, am I, you know, you kind of start to like question your own voice. So it probably came into my life at kind of the right time, in terms of me almost falling back into like the imposter syndrome of it all, of just being like, am I like, you know what I mean, like kind of like letting that self-doubt sneak up on you, because although obviously like you want to separate as much as you can from like external validation, you don't want your confidence to be like, you know, contingent on that validation. But it also still means a lot when you can kind of see those things come into fruition.
It's nice to know you're not just doing something and releasing it to the void.
Yeah,
and there's nothing really coming back.
Yeah, like something's bouncing back.
Yeah, we've definitely had times where it's like, is anyone watching?
Is anybody out there?
Yeah, and then we had it a few weeks ago where we were at a festival and someone was like, oh, I like follow you guys.
Yeah.
We're just so like, you're like, really?
Why? And I wonder if it's less seeking external validation, but rather like seeking connection. I wonder if that's maybe a way to look at it instead. Like, again, we were having like, we're so pleased we like live together. So we like have these like little moments where like go to a park and like just like chat, like for like phones away, like just chat. And we were like saying about before we launched, I know I kind of touched on it a little bit before we started recording, but like before we launched Tuning In, we were kind of like at like not necessarily a crossroads, because like I always would want to do this podcast, so this is my dream. There was a moment that summer where it was like no one cares, and it was like we were getting rejections, and we were just like you know when you hit that, like it is kind of like creative rock bottom where it's like no one's listening, no one cares, we're old news, like it was at a real like low point. And I remember like one point I was just like, we either like need to like fully push or just like give up at this point. And obviously like we fully pushed and we started tuning in and it was all fun. But I think like, and I really liked hearing you explain it, because I think it's so easy to read those moments as like, oh God, like just do it for yourself. Like, do you not love what you do? And I think that's a really like simple way to look at it, and kind of a way to look at it where you've not experienced it, because when you have experienced 100%. It is like, I'm not looking for someone to say what you're doing is cool, I'm just looking for someone to like hear me, and that's all I want. And I think like people think that that's like being like fame hungry, and it's like, it's not. I just want people to like respond to me, and I just want like a space to grow, but I can't have that if there's no space for me there.
Well, I think that's the thing, right? Also is that like I don't think there's anything, I don't know, I know people will be like, oh, like, feel some kind of way about it, but I don't think there's anything to be ashamed of to say that, like, I've got dreams and I want to fulfill them. And in the, you know, music world, the art world, being able to pursue your dreams, being able to keep yourself afloat financially by pursuing those dreams, it also requires there being somebody at the receiving end of it. Like they go hand in hand. So I don't think there's, even though people might, you know, as you said, like deem it as like, oh, fame hungry, or like what, you know, kind of almost like invalidate your chase for that success. I think it's only because they're just attached. Like there's no way to remove that. Like to be a successful artist, you have to have an audience, and you have to be able to be in rooms, be in spaces where, you know, as you said, people want to hear you. If that wasn't the case, then I'm sure there would be so many musicians that like your dream would start and end in like your bedroom, and you would be making music, and you would be doing it for you, but I think you're still doing it for you, even though you wanna do it at a really cool big venue. It's still for you, but it's just you want to invite more people in. I think that's the core of it, right? Like you want to build a world, and like what is art without connection? I genuinely feel like it is the core of it, right? Like connection and community is what art is for. So I don't think it's a bad thing to chase it, you know.
I think anyone that really does look at something like that and thinks, oh, you're just fame hungry, like number hungry or whatever, I don't think this is like offensive to them, but like they just don't have something that they're willing to put themselves in such a vulnerable position
100%.
to fly or fail. They just don't have that passion, which is fine, but like
don't speak on something you don't know.
Like, it's okay that people do.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
Like we could talk to an empty room and we'd have fun, because we also probably have the privilege of like the two of us being together, so everything is a fun opportunity. But we also would love to be on like the Orc stage at Reading and Leeds Festival, like doing something with a crowd. Like that's okay to say as well. There has to be a crowd there.
It's like I think it's okay to be loud in the pursuit of your dreams. Like I genuinely just think. And that's also, you know, like coming back to the question of like, how did you find confidence, or how did you get out of your own way in terms of like posting stuff online and stuff? I think it's that of like just not fearing being loud, and like anyone in my life who has known me since I was a child knows that this is what I've always wanted to do. So I don't think anyone would be shocked by the fact that I'm here and like trying to pursue it. But it's like trying to eradicate that shame of just being loud in what you want and what makes you happy, and not feeling pressured to settle in any way just because it's not necessarily the conventional or like the safe route, you know.
And I guess while we're kind of thinking about future and like dreams, I'm kind of interested in like what kind of artist you'd like to envision yourself as. I mean, you cite like basically an iconic artist, like
no
Frank Ocean, like Alicia Keys, but I'm also kind of like, yes, in the sense of like creativity, like who would you want to see yourselves walk in the footsteps of, but also like I guess how you would like to carry yourself as an artist is also like an interesting way to approach that, because you seem to approach everything with such like almost like a level-headed like grace, you know. And so like I don't know, that's really like a long way of asking it, but where do you kind of see yourself as a type of artist, and if there's anyone who springs to mind? But I'm aware we've made you cite so many people.
Well, I think as an artist, like you're always you want to take inspiration, but you never really want to follow too closely in anyone's footsteps. You know, you kind of want to build your own thing, and I think that aligns with me quite a lot, just in terms of even like genre, right? Like I always just want to make sure I've created space where I can dip and dive into you know, anywhere, and not feel kind of limited by boxes and genre lanes, because I feel like that's kind of what the industry often wants from you. You know, they want like your branding, they want to know exactly who you are, like sum it up in like one paragraph, and then kind of stick to it, because we want to build on that one thing that you've mentioned. So I think all of the artists listed previously, you know, I think the reason why I'm kind of drawn to the work they do is because they don't limit themselves, and like they do kind of have that freedom of expression to follow their creativity rather than follow, like, you know, as we were talking about, kind of the lane in which like the more business side of the industry would want you to. So I think it's probably always trying to move with integrity, always trying to not ever really detach myself from the music. I know that there is maybe like a character or like body that you step into when you're performing and doing shows, and like there are definitely ways to like express that creativity that don't necessarily like completely align with you as like the individual, as the person. But I think for me, like music has always been a kind of extension of me. So I think it's always like moving with her in mind, you know, like moving with inner child in mind, and also like my own values as a person, allowing that to kind of speak through my music as well. Like I always feel like the two are kind of attached, and not compromising that. I think like I want to grow and evolve, but I also want to make sure that I'm making the right decisions and choices for me as a person as well. Yeah.
Wow. So I really like that.
That's a really good answer.
Does that kind of, I don't know.
You're giving like the dream answers that every time you answer something, I'm like, I'm so
Oh,
glad you said that, because I really feel that.
I'm trying not to overthink them too much. I'm
No,
like, is that the
but
right
it's
thing?
really good to, I think, I'm a sucker for the inner child. Like I love it. I mean, obviously I like study children's literature, but
Yeah.
I think like I'm such like that is core to you and what you want to do, and I often think that's what tends to like ground me a lot when we're doing things.
Definitely.
And I say to even like not necessarily like child, but even like when me and Eliz first met, like we'll do things and I'm like, God, like literally like 19-year-old us would like die at the sound of this. Like, and a lot of the time, like I kind of have to like step away from something and be like this is annoying right now, but like 19-year-old us couldn't believe that we were here, and like often, you know, that thought process of like, oh, like literally like teenage me would literally think I'm the coolest person.
Yeah, the coolest person. I know, I was literally thinking of that, and I was like, yeah.
And I think that's so important, and I think I would love to see more people move like that, because I don't necessarily think people do, because I think there's this idea of like looking forward into the future. But I'm like a sucker, like, I don't know who you are, you're a sucker for like nostalgia and like looking back, and I just love that. It's like I look forward to seeing that future.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's like just trying to stay grounded in like the truest version of you, and often I think I've experienced a lot like in my 20s also just being like you're almost coming back around, you know, you're there's so, as much as you kind of grow into who you are, there's so much unlearning, there's so much kind of like baggage that you're kind of putting down, and you're kind of realizing that like younger me actually had more figured out than I gave her credit for, and then it was kind of society and the world that like broke her down in the process. And like, how do I get back to that kind of like the innocence of just really just wanting to like live your best life, you know, and like, again, like letting go of like any shame around that, because I think that's really what happens. Like you kind of grow up, like you move through all these institutions like schools and work, and like you're constantly kind of pushed and shoved into places that you don't necessarily want to go, and like that obviously, you know, like transforms you not into like a different person, but like I think it kind of like creates this kind of breeding ground for a lot of insecurity and a lot of doubt in like what you want and like who you are. And I think kind of like peeling all that back and like getting back to her, and really trying to figure out what is it that she wants. And like, as you said, of like 15-year-old me would think like, this is so cool, like what, like you're out here, you're talking about your music, like you're supporting Joe Hill at Bush Hall. Like kind of like also like taking a moment to be like, she would be so like overjoyed by that being like what your June is now looking like. So like also taking moments to just like really like applaud yourself for sticking it out long enough to like do things for you but also for her, and hopefully like moving in that same kind of direction.
I was I haven't uploaded it, obviously, because you would have seen it, but I was making a TikTok the other day about like me as a child, like, and the steps to becoming like, I guess, a music journalist now. And I'd saved pictures of me when I went to a 5 Seconds of Summer concert, and I'd written the little like tally on the wrist and stuff. And this is making me think about, like, I was scrolling through those pictures, like, that's just so sweet that I was out there. And I was like, I'm seeing Five Sauce for the first time. I'm so excited. And then like, we're going to festivals and like interviewing artists, and we've got a studio that we're bringing artists into. Like, it's the same kind of thing of like,
so cool.
The inner child would be so happy at that, and I know yours too, with Five Sauce exactly.
Exact same person.
Sometimes we think we had like the same childhood brain, because we were in the same room to see One Direction. Like
No
we were both in
way.
Wembley at the
We
same
were like
time.
opposite sides of
That
the
is
stadium.
so
So
sick.
we think we're like kindred spirit children, and then we found our way to each other as adults.
Yeah. Which
Oh,
I
I
mean
love
makes sense
that.
when you like look up Blonde Vibrations and like what it is, and even like this, it's like yes, this makes complete sense.
This makes sense.
Like,
Yeah.
with like the branding as well, like it just I think like
I love that. That's
child
amazing.
inner child soulmates.
That was such a sweet.
I love that because I also feel like in some ways that your inner childs are like staying alive through each other.
Yeah,
by, like,
absolutely.
oh, so cool.
And we were also like, I don't want to speak on you, but like I think you would agree, like I was such like a little like lame kid as well.
Oh yeah, same.
I was so weird.
But don't you also think that like everything that like you as a kid would have been like, oh, that she was so lame, like now it's like, no, that was actually really cool.
Yeah.
Like you're kind of like bringing all those things
Yeah.
back, and you're like, no, like she wasn't lame, like she was just made to think that she was. Do you know what I mean? Like not to get all
dressed the
deep
same
with
way.
it.
Like, I dressed the exact same way as I did when I was like
mean,
lame, a
truly.
lame little kid. Like I'm like literally like crazy.
The only thing, if childhood me like could look at me now and think like I've got tattoos, like that's the only thing where I'm like, oh, I'm definitely a lot cooler now.
Yeah.
Like, if she knew that, she'd be like,
She'd be like,
why
she's
have you
killing
done
it.
that?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
why? You've got a massive fan on your back.
You have a Lana Del Rey album on you, like that is so weird. Okay, so we're gonna go on to the agony aunt section.
Mm-hmm.
Your listeners actually submitted so many.
Did they?
Yeah,
Because I was gonna resend it,
Yeah.
but then I was like, oh, maybe it's enough.
Like whatever's been submitted is like.
Yeah,
that's
I was like,
locked
that'll be
in
like the
now.
core initial reaction. So I was like, maybe I'll
Yeah.
leave it for that, so that it doesn't get like
Yeah.
over. That's so
No,
cute.
honestly, like probably one of the highest
No
submission rates for an
way.
artist. I think so.
Oh,
I don't think
come
I'm lying.
through.
either.
No, I don't think you're lying.
Okay, good.
It's really funny. We have like a
Bless them.
section at the end, and like this is like no hate to anyone who like submits them, but we have like a section in me like any other comments or things you want to share, and it's always like without fail like. With any artist, but particularly with you, there's always comments at the end being like, "Love you so much," like some like sweet message, and it's so cute. But it's always like that's not what it's there for. Like, and it's also like,
thanks.
we never get around to sending it to the artist, so it's always like we just feel like we have like this little archive of like love notes to
That's
anyone
so
who's ever been on the show.
cute.
But everyone
Oh my
who
God.
submitted have very nice things to say.
Oh,
with this to say.
shout out to them. So adorable. Oh my goodness.
Okay, number one is, how do I learn to move on from people that have wronged me in the past instead of giving them second chances?
That's really hard.
We're coming in.
The
Coming in
silence after
tough.
that. Wow.
Like mic drop.
Could you repeat the question?
Yes. How do
It's even
I?
like speaking exam.
Yeah, literally.
I'm surprised I even did it right the first time. How do I learn to move on from people that have wronged me in the past instead of giving them second chances?
I think disclaimer first and foremost, I am not a professional. So any of this advice, take it with a grain of salt. But I would say, first and foremost, like be gentle with yourself. Because I think if whoever this person is to you, like if they've been in your life for a long time, like that's not going to be an easy thing to break off. That's not going to be an easy thing to also like live without. I think something that you lose that is still present, like something that still exists in the world, like but you can't be around it. Like I think it's not the equivalent of loss, but I also feel like it's a type of grieving, you know, especially if they were close to you. Like if this is like a best friend breakup or like a breakup or like whatever kind of disconnect you're making with this person, I don't know if it's necessarily much easier because they've been hurtful to you. Like I think a part of you is probably always like clinging on to that version of them that like you saw the best in.
Yeah.
So I think like convincing yourself that like I deserve better is really hard, but I think like that's what you need to do, and just like keep in mind like there are people out there who will treat you the way that you deserve to be treated, and that allowing them to occupy space in your life but not treating you the way that you deserve is really self-harm. Like it's you've got to move on for you. I know that's not easy, but I think like surround yourself with people that you love. Remind yourself that like people do love you, and block them. Like try, like I mean, like, you know, like sometimes I do feel like clean break, right? Like try not to see as much of them as you normally would, and kind of like allow that space to gradually get bigger and bigger, but like don't force it necessarily, but just like allow it to drift. And like I think eventually life will feel normal without them. Like you won't miss them, and if you do, maybe just remind yourself that they're a little bitch.
You know, like that is something I do not do, is block them. Like, it's like just not. I would just rather watch them forever.
I know. I've actually,
healthy.
you know what? I'm not like a blocker. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I don't.
Do you mute stories, or not even?
Oh, maybe I don't block them because I kind of just unfollow them, honestly. So maybe it's not even like, I don't think I carry any kind of like, they don't need to know that I unfollow. Like, I just think if you're not in my life anymore and like we don't talk, then you're out of my life. Like, I think sometimes, take that back actually. Don't unfollow, like don't block them, like unfollow them, like get rid of them. Like, because I do sometimes feel like you do that almost to protect their feelings, right? Of being like, I'll block them, I'll mute them so they don't know that I feel some kind of way or, but I think if we're there, I think have a conversation. I don't think it should be this sly, like, I feel hurt, I'm not going to tell them, but I'm going to block them, mute them, and they don't even know what they've done. Like, I'm such a believer in, like, having a transparent conversation and, like, making it known, like, of what somebody's done to hurt you and, like, how you feel. Like, I think you're owed the space for that conversation to happen, and, like, get closure that you need, and then goodbye. That's what I would say.
Yeah, because it's not doing it for their benefit, it's doing it for your own, so you can walk away from it and be like, I did everything that I needed to do. Yeah,
especially if this is in the context of like they've actually hurt you. Like, I think if you're just growing, if you're just like kind of going your separate ways and there's no like bad feelings, then, you know, do what you got to do and like wish them the best and move on. But like if they've hurt you, then like you do what you got to do for you. Like, you don't need to keep them in mind. Like, they're not owed that kind of kindness. Yeah. Anything you guys would add?
I have nothing to add to that. I think it's really good. The only thing actually is that, like, I think I've always felt upset from cutting someone off, but I've never regretted cutting someone off.
Yeah.
Like, I've never looked back and been like, and this, like, I've fallen out with a lot of people in my time, and I don't think I ever look back and I'm like, oh, I wish I didn't cut them off. That, like, I never regret it, but I always feel sad regardless of the circumstances, because I think at its core it's a sad thing.
Yeah.
That's my, like, full stop. That's my statement.
I agree with that. I don't think I'd add anything else. So good luck.
Yeah, I think it's a sad thing, but I also feel like I don't really carry a lot of resentment over stuff like that, because I do genuinely believe that, like, some people are just meant to be on our life for a short time. Like, not everyone's meant to be forever. And I think, like, if they prove to you why they're not, then you're probably better off.
Yeah, that's a sign. Like, you just need to take it. Yeah, definitely.
Time's over.
Yeah.
It's done. It's a wrap.
Alarm's going off.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
I feel like I'm not going
Love to anyone who's going through it also. Like, no, I hope you're okay.
Yeah, because it's going to be really tough for a bit. And then at some point you'll just realise, oh, I'm not really missing them, or like I have other people that I go to with, you know, the sort of information or gossip or plans that I would once have made or spoken to that person about. You'll go to someone else and then it's, oh, I don't actually need them.
Yeah, exactly.
There's not really a set time. It's kind of like a breakup, isn't it? It's not a set time for like how long it's going to take, unfortunately, but you'll realise it's done when it's done.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, how do I deal with jealousy within friendship? My friend is so clearly bothered by me and someone else. There's 3 of us, but I don't see a duo in a trio. I don't want to bring it up and cause issues for the other person who hasn't noticed this behaviour.
Oh, this is so specific. Oh man. Wait, so hold on, let me just paint the picture. So
there's a trio.
Yeah, one of them is jealous of the friendship with the other 2.
Yeah, but no one else really sees the problem. It's just the one person that sees the problem.
The one person in the duo sees that the person outside of the duo
is jealous. Of them, right? But the other person obviously doesn't.
Yeah.
Gosh. So what were they looking for? Like how to
deal with the jealousy that's present?
Gosh, I feel like a trio can be tough. Like, it either works, like it's either great, the dynamic's great, or like someone is always feeling out, like left out, not feeling like their energy is reciprocated in some way. Like, I don't know like how vicious the jealousy is, but in some ways I do feel like maybe that jealousy comes from a place of feeling excluded, which I know was not the relevance like of the question. I know that's not the advice you want to hear, but I think maybe there is some kind of like gentle moving with kindness that can exist in this space, because I do feel like we've probably all been in situations where we felt left out in some context, whether that's a trio or just like a group of friends. So I think that maybe their jealousy is more so like a projection of that feeling of like not maybe feeling like they belong in that friendship group the same way as the two of you who are clearly like closer. That's so tough. I mean, depending on like what that like if that jealousy is feeling like hostile and like mean and like the energy is coming from a really negative place, I don't know what else you could really do except like talk to them like about it and just being like, are you noticing? I don't think that there's anything else you can do except have a conversation. But I think like in situations like that, like the person who is behaving in a jealous way, they might not even be realizing that they're doing it. Like it really depends on like how intentional that is. Like if they're intentionally trying to make you uncomfortable and like feel some kind of way, or whether they're just kind of projecting insecurity. Yeah, I don't know. I think you got to have some tough conversations. Maybe let the other person who's oblivious know. And I don't know. That's a really tricky one. What do you guys think?
I think the only solution is to talk it out, because I think like I always try and think things logically, and it's like, okay, if you don't speak about it, then the person's still upset and you still feel this weird feeling, or you talk about it and it's going to be a hard conversation, but surely that's better than like emotions just being at the surface but not being addressed.
Yeah, I feel like that's like brewing in quite like
and it's just going to come out in another way if it doesn't.
Oh, for sure. I will say like that. I feel like at some point that might like bubble over.
So I think the only solution is a conversation, but I know that's not really what you want to hear.
It's reminding me of Ginny and Georgia.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
I haven't seen that show.
Any of it, okay.
No,
I'll be very vague.
Yeah.
The season that we've just finished, the whole group
Would you recommend? Is it a good show?
Yeah and no.
Okay.
It's like a teen show. So it's like it's so good, but it's like it's so cringe.
It's kind of like when you have nothing else to watch and you just want something entertaining.
And you'll get hooked, but it's not.
I will say that because there's 3 seasons of it, the last one that just came out is like significantly better in terms of like the actual show than the first 2. I don't think it's as cringe.
No, I don't think it is.
But anyway, so there's this group in there leaving someone out, and she did bring it up and try and have a conversation with them. And the person who was part of the excluding was just like, I don't know what you want me to say. Maybe we've just drifted. And I feel like that was not handled correctly at all. When we watched that, we were like, that's not how you're not validating the person's feelings.
I mean, whatsoever. I feel like if the person who's jealous within a conversation about like, why are you jealous? Why are you behaving like that? If they're genuine, like if what they express to you is that like I feel like I'm being excluded and left out and like I don't feel welcome in this friendship group, I do feel like you need to handle that with grace. Like I don't feel like that, because I think you need to put yourself in that person's shoes, even if your friendship with this other, even if you guys are closer, which by all means you can be, and like you can even like, you know, like maybe you guys go way back or whatever, like you just connect in a different way, but I think it would still be like the right thing, the friendly thing to do, to like try and put a little bit more effort in like making that person feel like they are welcome and like that you do care about them. I don't know, I feel like a lot of the time toxic feelings like that do arise from kind of people holding stuff in. So yeah, I don't know if I feel like that's something that you guys can definitely get to the bottom.
I think you can undo that as well. Like, I don't think that's irreversible damage.
No,
like, I think
not
like
at
a
all.
duo and a trio is always like solvable.
Yeah, 100%.
But I don't think that's like a death sentence.
Yeah, no, neither.
Yeah, if everyone just starts being a bit more like honest,
transparent.
And there's no huge red flags that then arise that
exactly. Like be mindful of red flags and move gently is what I would recommend.
Very good. So while we've been talking about emotions and advice, how do you approach the feelings and situations you discuss in your songs? And do you believe that music can be a form of memory keeping, or is it more about letting things go?
Oh, that's such a good question. I think it's all of the above. I know that's such a cop-out answer. I think I handle the feelings and emotions and situations by writing about them. I think often I write in hindsight. Not always, like sometimes it is just like a instant kind of expression, or kind of like a place for all those emotions and feelings to go, but I also feel like it's like reflective. So you kind of like come back around to significant moments of your life, or like the kind of moments of life that occupy space in your brain that you're trying to, as you know, said at the end, like let go of. But I think in doing so, you kind of like digest what you've gone through, put them in a song, and then you can kind of like leave things there in quite a beautiful way. And then it, whether you mean it to or not, it becomes memory keeping. You know, I think if you write a song, for example, about someone, anytime you sing that song, you're probably going to think about them. You might be detached or like disconnected completely, because I've definitely had songs that I've released and I've been like, wow, I really don't feel any of the things that I felt when I wrote this. So it even feels a bit strange to even release it, because like I'm now separate from that person. But then I think you step into the shoes of like, this song isn't mine anymore. Like I didn't make it for me now. Like now it belongs to whoever's listening to it and maybe going through a similar situation that I was at the time. I don't know, I think music just has a really cool way of dealing with all of that, and kind of existing with that in different ways for like the artist and the listener. I think that's why like we relate to each other so much through like art, because ultimately we've probably all gone through the same things. So when you're on TikTok and you're like, we've been living the same lives. I think sometimes when you're listening to music you kind of feel a bit of that.
Is there a theme, emotion or subject that you would like to write on that you haven't yet? Like, is there any part that you feel like you haven't quite tapped into? Or do you feel like you have hit all the marks?
I think there are definitely parts of me, my life, kind of like that, it's a weird thing to say, but like that maybe I haven't been brave enough to sit with long enough to write about them. I think that's, but it's also like a weird thing to even declare, because you're like, will you ever? Like I don't, like it's a
hard thing to put into a
and I think also like you probably, in terms of like the future, like depending on like where life kind of takes you, I think you'll write about your experiences as you go. But I know even like with you know the music that I've been making lately, a lot of it has been kind of like recalling, maybe why it makes sense why we were talking about our inner child, but recalling to my inner child and like being inspired by like the nostalgia that I feel like I'm often sitting with. So I think there's definitely space for me to be more vulnerable with myself, or like braver, when it comes to facing, you know, the things that we go through in life, and being vulnerable enough to like share that through songwriting with an audience. So yeah, I like pending.
Confirmed.
So with more recent songs like The End of the World, what was the kind of stages of making that? Did that come quite easily to you, or was that hard in any sense?
I think, like a few other of my songs, I think because it was inspired or like influenced by the world ultimately, you know, like by the news, by like the state of things, it really came easy actually. Like it didn't come from a place that felt like tough to dig into, because it came from frustration ultimately. And I think like when you're frustrated and you're kind of like angry and everything's just kind of like boiling over, like it's really easy to let that emotion like flood into song. So I think both The End of the World and like a single that I released before that, Sold Out, like I think both of those songs really actually came like quicker than most. Because it's kind of like when you've got so much feeling and you don't know where to put it, and you're almost like desperately seeking like means to express it. So I think it's the one that built quite naturally. But what is also like quite ironic with that song is that like I didn't write it recently, you know, but it's still timely, which is ultimately like a really sad fucking thing. That it's in some ways feels like it won't ever not be timely. Like we will always be in some ways looking at, this feels so depressing to say, but like looking at the world this feels so depressing to say, jeez, but like looking at the world with some kind of like disappointment and despair. Not at the world that we necessarily live in, or like ourselves or each other, but at like governments and politicians and like, in people that are ultimately letting humanity down. I think we'll always be carrying some kind of frustration around that. So as an artist, I just feel like at least I get to kind of put it somewhere.
And I like, this is absolutely a ploy to try and get like insight and exclusives, but where do you picture yourself at the end of the year? Do you picture yourself releasing more music? Do you want to do like let's like manifest some stuff?
Let's go. Oh my goodness, the manifestation list is high and long. I definitely releasing more music. I'm so excited to be releasing the next EP. It's just been such a long time coming, and life's just constantly kind of been getting in the way. But like I'm so excited to finally share all the songs from that project this summer, and more shows, fingers crossed. Didn't have much luck with festival season this year, but we manifest it for 2026, which feels nuts to say.
By the end of the year, things will be in motion.
Exactly right. That's what we want. More shows. I'm gonna like drop in, hopefully, fingers crossed, a headline show at some point. If not this year, then next. And hopefully more support shows as well. So any artists out there listening, hi, shoot my shot if you want me.
And then thinking kind of even further into the future and bigger picture, maybe in a few years, who would you want to see cover one of your songs in the BBC Live Lounge?
Oh, that's crazy.
We had this and we need to archive.
Oh my god. Wow. Okay, hold on.
You can pick like a specific song if that makes it easier. Like, I would like to see X person do X song. Like, if that's a bit like, or that could make it harder.
Okay, this is going to be insane. This is going to be insane because like you know what? I'm not even going to say it's never going to happen because like let me not block my blessings. But this would be insane because the guy barely comes out into the world. He's the most mysterious guy ever. So that would be crazy. But I would say Frank Ocean covering These Days / Outspoken Introvert.
Nice.
I feel like that would be really sick.
Frank Ocean has been mentioned so many times and you've not gotten your Frank Ocean tattoo out once.
I know.
And as you went, he never comes out. I went, you know what else never comes out? Elizabeth's Frank Ocean tattoo.
What's the tattoo?
Which side is it? So.
Shut up. That is so sick.
On your side as well.
I love that. Oh my god.
So if he goes
So
into the
cool.
Live Lounge and covers you, like, I'll be watching.
Yeah, with your little Channel Orange tat.
I know.
Oh my god.
I feel like we have to, because I've got this like lucky me tattoo, we always like rub that flip. I feel like there's my little bit of like rubbing this one.
Well, this was the perfect place to say that.
Yeah,
I feel like that would be so cool. That was song, I mean, not like completely, but like I was listening, one of my favorite songs off of the Blonde album is Nights, and I love like the way it switches halfway, and I feel like when I was listening to that song I was like, I think that's such a cool way to like deliver a song that has like almost like contrasting or like two different sides, but like in a creative way, that it's not actually just like two songs on the album, like it's the same kind of exists in the same realm. And I feel like when I was writing These Days / Outspoken Introvert, I was in that same mindset of like it starts and ends into kind of different places, and like one of the songs that kind of stuck out to me, I was like, oh yeah, Nights on. Right, so that would be very full circle.
I can see that.
Let's get him out the house and into
Over
the studio first.
Yeah, like we're manifesting
right
now. And our final question, we always ask our guests to nominate someone who you think would be good on tuning in. So could you name one or two female artists that you think we should tune into next?
This is such a tough question as well, because there's so many. There's an artist who I have been watching for a few years now, and she's really out here doing the damn thing, which is incredible. It's an artist called Bina.
I really recognize
If you've heard
that.
of her, yeah. She's like indie soul vibes, like dark alternative music. And we actually, like the first time I came across her, like I think it was like 2019 at BBC Introducing, and we were both at the same, so we like went to all the same panels and stuff like that. And yeah, I've just been like kind of you know, watching her journey since then. And yeah, she's killing the game right now. Her latest EP, Chaos Is Her Name, is what it's called. It's just so good. I think she's so innovative in like her artistry and like the music that she's making. So highly recommend anyone to go check her out. Yeah.
Lovely, thank you.
And that's about it. So thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so fun. I know,
really nice.
Same.
And thanks for watching.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.